Welcome back to the Post Route. I'm Erin. Let's talk Week 4 college football. We are starting off this week with the 10th ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders, say that 5 times fast, heading up to Salt Lake City to take on the 16th ranked Utah University Utes. Tongue twister in this week's big noon matchup. Both these teams are 3-0. Now, that being said, all 3 wins are non-conference and not a single ranked opponent. So a lot of these stats, while they look really great on paper, this week is where the rubber will meet the road for both of these teams to find out who is all talk and who is ready to prove their worth. The first 3 weeks for Texas Tech was Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State. And the first 3 weeks for the Utes were UCLA, Cal Poly, and Wyoming. All of these games were absolute blowouts by the Texas Tech Raiders and the Utah Utes. So far this season, the real star of Utah's offense is the run game. And who's their number 1 rusher? You might ask. Well, I'm really glad you did. Because it's quarterback Devin Dampier. Devin Dampier has rushed for almost 200 yards this season so far. I think he's at 198. Between him, Parker, and Rogers, they are averaging 180 yards per game on the run. This is all well and good when you haven't had a defense that can contain this type of game. Until now. Red Raiders are a top 3 rushing defense. Linebacker John Curry has 15 tackles so far already on this season. Now again, you have to take these stats with a grain of salt because while the Utes have not played a defense that's able to contain them, the Raiders have not played an offense that has been overtly spectacular, that their defense has really had to struggle. All this being said, with the Utes' run game, Texas's defense, that does not mean that Devin Dampier cannot throw the ball either. He is what we are referring to in this new age of college football as a dual threat quarterback. Now, he has thrown for over 600 yards this season and 6 or 7 touchdowns, I can't really recall, on top of rushing for almost 200 yards in the last 3 games. So he is not afraid to throw the ball. He is not afraid to take off and move. He's got some options here. I will say, on the throwing end of the ball, he does not seem to spread the wealth, as some might say. He doesn't seem to put the ball in different people's hands. As a matter of fact, he only has 2 guys, that's Ryan Davis and Dallin Bentley, over 100 yards receiving. Baron Morton, on the other hand, the Texas Red Raiders quarterback, is an absolute ball passing machine. In 3 games so far this season, Morton is creeping up on 1,000 yards passing. He's thrown 11 touchdowns and only 1 interception. He has 4 guys in his receiving core that are over 100 yards receiving, and 1 guy, Coy Eakin, who is 245 yards receiving. He is operating with surgical precision within the pocket, which is great. Sometimes you don't need a dual threat quarterback to make your offense hum. It's nice. It's great to have that option, but it's not necessary. That being said, Morton is not a rushing quarterback. As a matter of fact, he's had 6 carries on the year and he is negative 5 yards. He's not on the move. He's not somebody that gets out of the pocket and takes off running to extend plays and drives. He is somebody that trusts his offensive line to give him as much time as he needs. Trusts his receivers to get open. And so far they have. Now, they also haven't faced a secondary that is going to look like the Utah Utes. I mean, they're going to be the best secondary that they have seen so far this season as far as defenses go. And we're going to really see if this kid is him. I would not be surprised if this game came down to a one possession game. If Texas Tech can stop the run like they say they can stop the run, this game is over for Utah. If they can maintain Dampier, it puts them in the ballpark of winning this game. If they can contain the entire run game, forget it. Looking at this from the other side of the table, though, if Dampier gets loose, if this Texas Tech defense is not all it's cracked up to be, they're in trouble. They're in huge trouble. At this point, the Utes are favored by 3.5. Utah Stadium is not an easy place to play. It can be a tough crowd. It's not a game that should be taken lightly. The other piece of this puzzle that I think a lot of folks forget about when they're looking at games like this and the traveling on these kids, the altitude difference between Texas and Utah. It's a killer. If they are not prepared to play in this particular type of environment, Texas is going to be in trouble. That being said, head coach for the Red Raiders, Joey McGuire, has said leading up to this, all week leading up to this game, he feels that they're ready. They've done things, they've put things in place within their program to get themselves ready for this type of showdown. And he knows, the way that he is talking, he ain't taking this lightly either. He knows this is going to be a make or break moment in this entire season for Texas Tech. If Texas Tech can stand on business, and to throw another cliche in there, put their money where their mouth is, they're going to walk away with the win on this one. It's going to be tight, but the post route's going to be calling this one for Texas Tech. Let's talk about 4th-ranked Miami taking on the no-ranked Florida Gators. The SEC and ACC clash up this weekend at 7:30 in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, where Billy Napier and the Florida Gators trek their way south and take on Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes offense is humming right now. They are firing on all cylinders, and Carson Beck is playing quarterback for these people like he was born to do it. He looks, dare I say, playoff ready at this point in time? Yeah, I think so. He has thrown for over 800 yards so far this season, and he has an almost 80% completion rate. He's off to an absolute scorching start as far as offenses go. Taking a look at the Florida Gators and DJ Lagway, they are off to a 1-2 start. And Billy Napier's behind is heating up. The outlook does not look good if he cannot right this ship for the Florida Gators. DJ Lagway started out this season looking relatively great. And, I mean, he's thrown for over 600 yards, several touchdowns. And until last week, he only had 1 interception. Until he threw 5 against LSU. He looked rattled. He never settled in to any type of tempo or rhythm. And you just couldn't really help but feel bad for the kid at certain points of his game. The most productive part of the Gators offense is their run game. Jaden Baugh has rushed for almost 250 yards this season. He is definitely the star of their ground game. However, the entirety of the ground game is struggling with making a ton of explosive plays. They're chipping away at folks, but they've really not had a ton of plays that you're like, whoa, check out this guy, and taking off for 20, 30, 40 yards at a time. Miami's Mark Fletcher Jr. also rushing for almost 275 yards so far in the first 3 games of this season. So he is their go-to back so far. Neither one of these quarterbacks are what we would refer to as rushing quarterbacks. They'll move if they have to. Small little bursts here and there. I think neither one of them is over 40 yards rushing so far this season. They are not mobile quarterbacks. Carson Beck, quite frankly, doesn't need to be. He has all the time in the world to make his decisions, read defenses, and throw his ball, which is why he has an 80% completion rate. He doesn't have to run. I do think for the Florida Gators, if DJ Lagway could find his feet, they would be in a better spot than they are. They would be able to maybe extend some of these drives that they stalled out on. That both these quarterbacks have great receiver cores, although you can tell that Carson Beck is capable of finding his receivers maybe a little bit more. I know last week was just rough on DJ Lagway, man. It's hard to even pull stats that are appropriate for what that massacre was for him. He did not seem to be able to find his receivers. He did not seem really to connect with anyone where he knew even where they were going to be at. Carson Beck, on the other hand, his relationships and his ability to find his receivers in Malachi Toney and CJ Daniels, but then also make sure that he is on a dime getting them a ball. Miami's defense is disciplined, and they are executing very well at stopping the run game. You need to keep your eyes peeled for Ruben Bain. He is an absolute menace for a quarterback. The pressures that he has putting on, his ability to collapse a pocket, he's coming after you with a vengeance. Their defense has been just a complete disruption for the offenses that they have faced. Now, Florida's defense has been what you could maybe refer to as the bright spot in their game. They are the 10th best defense in forcing 3 and outs so far this year. And despite having a strong run defense, their passing defense needs work. Their secondary is almost non-existent. They are not putting enough pressures on quarterbacks. They're not recording enough sacks. They're not forcing fumbles, not getting takeaways. They're struggling, to say the least. Right now, Miami is favored by a comfortable 7.5 points in their home stadium. And at this point, there is 0 reason to choose Florida for the upset this week. Miami is just a complete football team at this point, and all they're doing is really improving week to week. And I feel like Florida has yet to even hit their stride or even find a lane, to be completely honest with you. And may God have mercy on Billy Napier if he starts this season out 1-3. He's in it, folks. He's in deep. This is a real issue for Billy Napier and the future of his career, or just his career in general. We are taking Mario Cristobal and Carson Beck's Miami Hurricanes to topple the Florida Gators this week. We interrupt this episode of the Post Route to bring you a public service announcement. This is a message from the National Association of Over-Enthusiastic Fans. Remember, it's okay to cheer, but please try and keep the yelling at a minimum when you're at your child's youth soccer league. Let's continue on with college football. Week 4, diving into what we're going to be referring to as Midwest Mayhem. Number 9 Illinois versus number 19 Indiana. This is the first time since 1950 that when these teams meet up during the year, they are both ranked. Which seems kind of crazy. If you've been following Curt Cignetti's Indiana Hoosiers for the last couple of years, you know he's kind of really turned this program around. He's a little bit more boisterous than their old coaches. He's pulled in a lot of new players, a lot of new talent, a lot of new donors for the program. Same thing with Brett Bielema. He has really kind of turned a corner with Illinois. So to me, it didn't really seem like it had been that long since both of them were ranked at the same time, but clearly I was mistaken. Both these teams are coming into this matchup 3-0 on the season. We still have quite a few undefeated teams in the top 25, which is crazy because that doesn't happen very often. So this is going to be a big matchup for both of them. When we're looking at these quarterbacks side by side, we have Luke Altmaier at Illinois. We have Fernando Mendoza at Indiana. Their resumes almost read like a copy and paste. Altmaier has thrown for 709 yards this season, 8 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Mendoza, on the other hand, has thrown for 708 yards, 9 touchdowns, and no interceptions. They're within 1 yard and 1 touchdown of each other on the stat lines. Where the stat line starts to get skewed, Mendoza has been sacked 1 time in 3 games. Luke Altmaier has been sacked 9 times. That poor kid has spent more time on his behind than he has on his own 2 feet. His offensive line has got to protect this kid. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I am not watching Illinois football week in and week out, so I don't know if this is an offensive line problem or if this is a pocket awareness problem on Luke Altmaier's behalf, but either way, these two got to figure it out. Neither one of them is Devin Dampier rushing for 200 yards. Mendoza has rushed for roughly 70 yards, I think, this season. So he's chipped away at it a little bit, moves when he needs to, but doesn't seem super comfortable leaving the pocket. Altmaier, on the other hand, is negative yards. This kid is not a rushing quarterback. Even more reason that his offensive line has got to keep that pocket from collapsing in on him. Illinois is working with a top, let's say 30-ish passing offense. Their average is about 284 passing yards per game, which is fine. It's great, even, some would say. The Indiana Hoosiers, however, are operating with a top 3 rushing offense. They are averaging over 300 yards per game rushing. They have 3 guys over 200 yards. Kalen Black is their number 1 back, and they have seen a decrease in production from him over the course of the 3 weeks, with his highest producing game as week 1 and slowly going down to week 3. If this kid hits his stride, the whole world is in trouble. As far as the run game goes for Illinois, Caden Fagan is Illinois' number 1 back. He has seen increased production week after week, starting from week 1 through week 3. He's also scored a touchdown in each of those games. They will need to continue to see increased production with him as the year goes on, specifically in this game, because Indiana has a top 10 passing defense. Their secondary is out of this world. So they are going to be able to shut down a lot of this passing game from Illinois, and they're going to have to rely heavy on their run to score points. Illinois also has a defense that has not allowed a single rushing touchdown so far this year. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Much like some of our other folks that are 3-0 coming into week 4, they have not played anyone of significance. So it's not difficult to look at these padded stats that they've not allowed a single rushing yard, but they haven't actually played a team that has a significant rushing offense. So we're really going to see how well they stack up to what they've been saying and what the stat line reads for the last couple of games. As far as the pass game goes, Illinois is going to be looking probably for their number 1 wide receiver out there, and Hank Beatty. He's already got 289 yards receiving, but he will need to find a way to separate himself from this Indiana secondary because they're going to be on him. The coverage is going to be tight, and if he cannot find separation, they are not going to be able to get some passes off to him. As far as the pass game goes for Indiana, they got a couple of options. Their number one receiver right now is Omar Cooper Jr. He currently leads the team with 4 touchdowns and over 300 yards receiving in the first 3 games of the season. The kid is an animal. Elijah Surratt follows him back with 3 touchdowns of his own and over 160 yards receiving. So they have a good core here with these two. They also have some other options. So if the run does get shut down, they're going to be able to spread the ball out a little bit. Currently, as the line sits right now, Indiana is favored by 4.5 points, and I just got to say, I got to go with it. We are calling this one for Indiana. I just don't see how Illinois is going to be able to separate themselves from parts of this defense. But both of these teams stack up super evenly. Great offense meet great defense on both sides of the ball. Stacked up with the quarterbacks being almost the same in their resume. It's going to be a toss-up. I think 4.5 points is a little generous. I think it's going to be even closer than that. This could be a 1-point game, to be completely honest with you. But we got to lead towards Indiana. I just love what Kurt Cignetti's doing over there, and I think that this is a win for them this week. Could be wrong. It's been wrong in the past, but we'll see how it goes. That's the route. We'll catch you next time.